The Zone Coverage Podcast Network.
They may be drinkers, Robin, but they're also human beings.
Hell yeah, let's get Stinko.
From the Cumulus Studios in St. Paul, Minnesota, and
live from the Arrowhead Pond in Anaheim, California,
this is the Giles and the Goalies podcast. I am your host, Giles Farrell. Across several time zones is Ben Remington.
Hello.
Ben, how is the weather back in Minneapolis?
You're a dick. It's cold. What do you think?
I only asked because you were stuck outside trying to get into the studios and you said it's cold.
Yeah, I was out there for like 15 minutes too.
No, I am enjoying some time in the sun here in Southern California.
Good.
It when it gets to nighttime, it does require a jacket, but you can still wear shorts, which is nice. But no, it is fun out here. Yeah. And I do have a grind my gears.
You know what really grinds my gears?
Excellent.
Because I look for one every week now.
You're giving the people what they want.
But so no, Friday we get into Los Angeles and we get checked in at the hotel and all that junk, and because I'm bringing my girlfriend with me to 2 different hockey games, I had to make a trade-off.
Concessions were made, yes.
Yes, and the deal was going to Disneyland on Friday.
Sure. So
I did, and it was a good time. We enjoy the roller coasters, so that was always fun. The Buzz Lightyear blaster game was outstanding. I did exceptionally well over my companion here. But what's agitating is you are with people all day, and people are the worst.
Sure.
And this is like the state fair for me, in the fact that a mindset for you to have when you are roaming the grounds is always assume there is somebody behind you at all times. And therefore, if you need to stop, make sure you see who's coming behind you before stopping or walking at an incredibly slow pace. Nobody does that.
No.
And furthermore, as I was just reminded, people who walk these parks, and the state fair for that matter, with strollers, especially the double strollers, are the bane of existence.
You say that now until you have a kid or 5 and...
Well, no, I'm going to be terrible, and when that day comes, my kids will either be old enough to walk themselves or they don't go at all. That's the rule.
Get a little workout in, kid.
Yeah. They're not getting away with being pushed around at these parks. That's how I was raised, and that's how my kids, if I should ever have any, are raised.
Yeah, to your point, I don't remember being pushed around in a stroller ever either. Like, obviously I was when I was very, very small. But, from my earliest memories, I don't know however old I was, 3 or 4 or whatever, I don't recall ever being in a stroller after that point.
Yeah. No, and my parents were the exact same way. Like, you're going to walk, we're not pushing you around. And they also didn't have these luxury strollers that you see.
Right.
There's 15 different compartments, and yeah. I'm surprised these children don't have back massagers in these strollers at this point.
They might, you just can't see them.
Especially for how much they cost.
Right. Yeah, they're like
Good heavens.
they're like Range Rovers.
You know, like I get it. It's a children's theme park, so you know, kids and strollers and all that is going to come with going there. But people are just so not considerate ever.
Yeah, I'm familiar. I spent last night on a party bus in western Minnesota going into Minneapolis and back.
Go on.
Yeah. Let's just say my view of people isn't much better this morning than yours. So, even myself, for that matter. While we're at it, I don't know. It got better yesterday when we went to the Warner Brothers studios and then to Staples Center. People still the worst. Yeah, very much. All right. We'll probably have little tidbits from my trip that pop up here during the show, but sure. We can get on with it, on to Minnesota Wild hockey, because people listen to us for that, not how we feel about strollers. Well, they do listen to us how we feel about soup. But yes, they need our food takes. I think we have a food question in the mailbag this week. I'm thoroughly excited. Well, good. It's tis the week, Giles. Yeah, this is true. If you're ever going to have food questions on a podcast, which we have, somewhere in the range of 20 to 30 weeks a year, this is the 1 week where it's a definite go. Tis the week to get out the tis the end. Towards the end of the week to get out your Christmas decorations. Not any sooner than Thursday, though. Yeah, don't do that. That was the other thing that was kind of irritating about Disneyland was they were in full-on Christmas mode, and really, that was annoying. Yeah. Oh, I guess you can't tell, but I just got the biggest eye roll over the shoulder. I'm a Christmas fan too, and I'll listen to Christmas music maybe. I'll mix it in a little bit before Thanksgiving, but yeah, for the most part, I'm fine with waiting until after Thanksgiving for pretty much everything Christmas related. Yeah, I am very strict on that. Thanksgiving or later is fine, not before. I also accept those, like a friend of the show, Taylor Kelly, who puts up Christmas lights towards the end of October, early November, but doesn't light them up till later on. That is allowed. That's fair. And I think the struggle with Christmas lights is that they get a lot harder to put up after Thanksgiving. Yeah. Due to the weather. So I totally would be on board with putting them up before Thanksgiving, but just obviously you don't have to turn them on, Yeah. They're lights. That's a strategy I'll have at some point if I ever want to put up Christmas lights. Yeah, I didn't, being a new homeowner this summer, I didn't put up any Christmas lights this yet. I think I'll be one of those because my girlfriend's big on this move too, waiting until after Christmas and then buying lots and lots of clearance items. Yes, that's a good strategy. Yep, so that's how I'll be decorating my house for next Christmas. 'Tis the season to be merry. Yes. All right, on to Minnesota Wild hockey. Sure. Another fascinating week in Minnesota Wildland as the Wild came in on Tuesday evening, finishing their home-and-home with the Philadelphia Flyers, and they win 3-0 over the Dave Haxtell-led Flyers. Devin Dubnyk gets his third straight shutout, a 30-save effort. And Nino Niederreiter broke the Jason Zucker goal-scoring streak at 6 with a goal in the first period, 12 seconds into the hockey game. And Eric Stahl and Mr. Zucker added empty netters in the third to give the Wild a 3-0 win. Yeah, that was an all-around good effort. I feel like that was a solid hockey game. Dubnyk was sharp, obviously, again, and the Zucker train keeps on rolling. I think I made a GIF of it. I want to say it was on Tuesday night when there was a shot that looked like it got deflected twice, and Dubnyk still just made a effortlessly looking glove save. And I believe I captioned it as, "Man, he is dialed in tonight." So no surprise, he gets the third straight shutout. And following the game, his shutout streak was at 195.05, which was a team record, breaking his
old record, which was, I believe, in like the 168 range, if I'm not mistaken.
I thought it was 183 or something.
Mm.
Because he's had 3 straight shutouts before. So that's 180 minutes right there.
Yeah, maybe you're right.
Yeah, I think. I don't know. I could be wrong about that.
I thought it was in like it was like high 160s, I thought, but I don't know. Anyway, so that was kind of the story of the game. Dubnyk making some big saves to keep the Flyers off the board, including a Dale Weiss breakaway early in the third period.
Not something you see every day.
And I made a gif of that, and I captioned it, Dale Weiss on a breakaway. Yes, you read that right. And how does that happen? That was maddening. And you look on the ice, and you see it was Jonas Brodin and Matt Dumba, and then you just kind of go, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, well, we can talk about them later.
Yeah, so that was Tuesday night. So that was the Wild's 3rd straight win, or was that their 4th straight win?
I
think it was their
third.
4th straight win, because they had one previous, and then Dubnyk had 3 straight shutouts. No, that was their 3rd.
Yeah, because they lost to the Maple Leafs.
Yeah, they lost the Maple Leafs, then one at Montreal, one at Philly, then one against Philly.
Yeah.
All right, and then into Thursday night, where it looked like the 3-game winning streak was coming to an end as I was writing up a rather vicious game recap that I ended up having to hit Control-Alt-Delete on.
Yeah.
Because the Minnesota Wild decided to show up and play hockey. But the defending Western Conference champion, Predators, came strolling into St. Paul Thursday night. And Ryan Johansson scored his first goal of the season, incredibly, or fittingly, if you're kind of a Minnesota Wild fan as pained as we are.
Right.
You just go, yep, that's the Wild, getting somebody back off the snide there. Just 49 seconds into the hockey game, Johansson scores his first of the year to make it 1-0 Nashville. And a rather lifeless first period from the Wild. And I believe there was a spattering of boos as they left the ice in the first period.
Imagine that.
I could be wrong. Maybe that was the second period. But anyway, a snooze-filled first period, and then Roman Josi, Mattias Ekholm, a shorthanded goal from Ekholm, give the Predators a 3-0 lead just over halfway into the hockey game, and it looked like that was going to do it, because if you were watching the game, you thought there's no way the Wild are scoring.
Right.
3 goals in this hockey game, let alone 4, to win. But somewhere something clicked for the Wild. Who knows what that was? It was probably Bruce Boudreau going on one of his epic rants. I would like to take it as such. But Matt Dumba scored with 3:44 remaining in the second, and then with 39 seconds, Nino Niederreiter scores a power play goal to make it 3-2 at the end of the second period. Also in between both goals, Niederreiter had a goal taken off the board, and where it looked like he punched the puck into the net.
Yeah. He was going for the bunt motion, and instead of going off of his shaft, which would have been a goal, it went off his glove, which means it's no goal. So, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, you understand why the rule is. It just kind of, it stinks that he's, 2 inches off where he's holding his stick, and that causes a no-goal.
But to know, it looked like there was a little bit of hope for the Wild going into the third period. Then 57 seconds into the third period, Victor Arvidsson scores his 7th of the season to make it 4-2. And it did not look good for the home team. The Wild were just kind of toiling around for most of the middle part of this period. And then finally, just under 7 minutes to play, Ryan Suter scores his 3rd of the year. Or deflected off of Ryan Suter. It looked like Jaron Spurgeon had scored the goal.
Deflected off of his butt.
Yes. Right off the rear end.
Off the butt.
The rear end. What can describe Ryan Suter on the power play?
The butt.
And then 1:57 later, Eric Stahl scores to tie the hockey game on the power play. The Wild had 2 power play goals in this hockey game, And that was because Bruce Boudreau got fed up with the lethargic effort of his power play, and he threw out his bottom liners on a power play. I believe it was late in the first or early in the second. He did that to kind of send the message like, "You guys are awful. Get off the ice."
Right. And luckily for Eric Stahl, Marcus Foligno completely whiffed on a crossing pass.
Yeah,
And,
it was just
straight to
right
Stahl.
place at the right time.
Yeah, it was pretty incredible.
A little puck luck, if you will,
What?
that the Wild so rarely get.
All right.
We often hear how puck luck goes against the Minnesota Wild, but they were kind of a fortunate beneficiary of it right there. And then 2 minutes and 4 seconds later, Jason Zucker on a spin-around backhander beats Pekka Rinne to give the Wild a 5-4 lead. And then Jared Spurgeon adds a empty net goal a minute and a half later
for
to
about
give the Wild
100.
a 6-4 victory. So for those counting at home, that was 4 goals in the final 6:58 of the hockey game.
Yeah, that was bananas. And I think I'm still trying to figure out how that Zucker spin around goal went in, and I'm pretty sure Pekka Rinne is still trying to figure that out as well.
That was quite something. That is not a type of goal you expect out of Jason Zucker. He's
No.
more of the wrist shot variety.
Right.
But credit to him when you're feeling good in the zone, you can you try some new things, and there it just kind of went in for him. So good on him, I guess.
It's like I liken it to Shooter McGavin when he's on his hot streak at the beginning of Happy Gilmore. He says the hole just keeps on getting bigger and bigger. And the real winners are the
Phrasing.
people of Portland, because every time he comes back, it gets harder and harder to leave. He thinks they're putting something in the water.
That's possible.
Yeah, so for Zucker, I mean, that's got to look like a soccer net out there at this point, right? Sorry,
He must
football net?
He must be getting some good sleep at home now.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, who knows what the dynamic change is? Before it was sleep. Now, Carly Zucker / Applin is claiming they just need to have more kids. So that's kind of the inverse of getting more sleep. But if it works, it works.
Yeah, whatever works for him, I guess.
Right.
No, that win pushed the Wild into a wild card spot in the Western Conference, as I noted on zone coverage. But that spot turned to be short-lived as the Wild came out Saturday night in Washington, their only trip to the nation's capital.
Uh-huh.
They had a 5-game losing streak against Washington entering the game, and they left with a 6-game losing streak as TJ Oshie, Dmitry Orlov, and Evgeny Kuznetsov all scored for the Capitals, two of which came on the power play, and we'll get to that in a minute. But Nino Niederreiter scored the lone goal for Minnesota, his 5th of the year, and I believe that is now 3 games in a row for Niederreiter with a goal. Maybe it's 4.
Maybe Niederreiter's getting sleep and having kids.
Maybe it's some in the water.
Oh, Lordy.
But no, so yeah, there's 3 straight games for Niederreiter with a goal now. As Bruce Boudreau so bluntly put it after the game, special teams, won the game for Washington, and 2 power play goals for the Capitals just did it in for the Wild as their power play once again looked rather atrocious.
Yeah.
And just kind of watching the game here this morning, and these guys just toil with the puck way too much. It drives me up a tree. I don't know what you're expecting by, just standing around with the puck on the power play. Puck movement is so key, as Washington, showed us on the other side of the ice. And the Wild just seemed to do the exact opposite, thinking it'll have some kind of positive effect. But I don't know. Hey, that's just me. I just sit here on my couch and watch.
Yeah, to your point, I think you're right. And Washington certainly, even without Ovechkin scoring, still has a very good power play because they, like you said, they move the puck around. They know what they're doing. And that's how you get Alexander Ovechkin open in that face-off dot time after time after time. You have to move the puck around. You have to move the defense around, and the Wild just don't seem to think that works. I think you can count on one hand Wild one-timer goals in the power play in the last, couple of seasons. It just doesn't happen. They just don't do that, and it's like, the advantage of a power play is that you can isolate a guy. You can get one of your guys completely, one-on-one with the goalie where your shooting percentage is a gazillion times higher, and they just don't seem like they just don't understand that you have to move the puck quickly to do that.
I haven't seen the whole game yet, but I was watching here, and I kind of noticed that the Wild were trying to shadow Ovechkin maybe a little bit on the power play, or when Washington was on the power play.
Yeah,
as it kind of looked like Eric Stahl was kind of shadowing him on that TJ Oshie goal, which kind of subsequently allowed TJ Oshie to get so open, because Eric Stahl kind of looked like maybe he was favoring Ovechkin a little bit.
Right.
And that just kind of left Oshie in a prime spot, and that's how that happens. Weirdly, Oshie leads that team in power play goals with 7.
Wow,
which is incredible.
It's not even a shootout or anything.
No, I don't know. I'm not gonna do too much raving about Washington. I've done that before.
You've learned your lesson.
Yeah. So no, the Wild lose, ending their winning streak. They now come out of the week with a 9-8-2 record, 20 points, just 1 point behind Dallas for a wild card spot.
Right.
They are also 2 points behind Chicago and 4 points behind Nashville in the Central Division, and then Winnipeg at 27, St. Louis at 31. It's going to take a little longer winning streak to catch back up with those teams, but and Winnipeg, St. Louis playing really well right now, so that not looking overly attainable on catching those teams at the rate they're playing.
Well, I mean, no, it doesn't look good now, sure, but at least on the bright side, they are knocking on the door. They're, like you said, 1 point out of a wild card spot, 2 points out of the first wild card spot. I don't know. They've got a game in hand on both those teams. I'm not super worried. I know Thanksgiving is kind of that benchmark, and we've kind of pointed towards that. You can panic when they're still, looking rough at Thanksgiving, but I don't think they're in a horrific spot right now. I think if they can, Saturday night was 1 loss. Before that, they had 3 straight wins. If that 1 loss was a blip in the radar and they go on they reel off another couple of wins in a row, I think they're looking pretty good. That being said, I'm not saying that's going to happen, because there certainly are problems with this team, and they were kind of lucky to get out of that Nashville game how they did. So 4 straight wins, including that Nashville game. So I don't know. It just I'm not as concerned, with them being just a smidgen out of playoff spot, as we get into Thanksgiving, because it's not like, you want to be kind of in playoff position come Thanksgiving, but if you're just on the outside looking in and you've dealt with, a butt pile of injuries, that's really not a horrible place to be.
And, I don't know, just kind of looking up some random player stats here. Granlund has 5 points in the last 5 games, including a 3-game point streak here.
Woo.
Had points in every game this week. Not too impressed with him on the power play, but as we're seeing at even strength, he's starting to maybe come around a little bit. I don't know. I'm just trying to pick out players to complain about, and
well,
I haven't really noted
Yeah, I mean, certainly the defense, I think, is not playing as well as we'd like it to. I think that's a pretty fair assumption to make at this point. I don't know. I don't think that. Yeah, I think the offense is clicking well enough, and if Dubnyk continues to stay hot, the defense is going to look a lot better. So that helps.
Yeah, I don't know. Do you have any lasting thoughts from this week? I guess we're I guess just kind of being positive. It's fortunate the Wild got 4 out of 6 points this week, especially considering they look like they were very well on the road to having 0 against Nashville, and they somehow snuck out 2 in regulation.
Right.
At a game that they mailed in for 33 minutes.
Yeah, that was an incredibly entertaining game to watch if you just watched the third period. But I think they're treading water, so to speak. I think they're starting to get a little bit above that treading water phase. I think they're starting to make some gains as far as, they strung together 4 wins, and that shouldn't be overlooked just because they lost Saturday night. They're going to lose some games every now and then, even in the best month they had. And last year they won, what was it, 11 games in a row? 12 games in a row?
Yeah, 12.
That's not common. So I don't expect them to go on a 12-game winning streak. But if they can reel off 4 in a row, lose a game, reel off another 3 or 4, lose a game, win 2 or 3, lose a game, win another 2 or 3, lose a game. You stay on that pace, for a little while, and you're going to be, that's going to skyrocket you to the top. And I like I said, I don't know that they're necessarily in that mode right now. I think how Dubnyk plays for the next month is probably going to determine that. But I'm really not super down on this team yet, at least. I mean, I think you'll have to wait a little bit longer for them to really kind of hurt themselves, or if they hit another rough skid, then you can start worrying about it. But when they're coming off of 4 wins in a row and 1 loss to a team that's pretty talented, I'm not too concerned.
The other kind of thing I was kind of thinking about early on, and then Michael Russo kind of wrote about it after Saturday night's game, was the Winnick, Eriksson, Kunnin line, which has been very good defensively.
Yeah.
Only allowing 1 goal against, which was that fluky goal in Boston. But he kind of pointed out that that line could score any type of goals. They could be one of the better lines, but they haven't. And I kind of look at players on that line and go, yeah, this line is going to go as, probably as Luke Kunnin goes. And I saw him kind of shoot the puck a little bit more Saturday night against Washington, and that's kind of something he needs to do more if, this line is indeed gonna go offensively. We know what they can do defensively, which, hey, good for them. You can put them up on anybody's top line, but I don't know. I would like to see Luke Kunnin shoot the puck more. He does have a really good shot. So
yeah, I think him and Eriksson Ek are just kind of learning as they go too. I mean, that's Eriksson Ek had his 2 cups of coffee, as it were, last season. Kunnin obviously came straight out of college, basically. So I think that line's only going to get better, and I think Daniel Winnick is a good third member on that line. But at the same time, I think when Charlie Coyle comes back, and if Zach Parise ever comes back, you've got certainly have some pretty interesting combinations for Eriksson Ek and Kunnin to play with in order to grow and get better.
Week ahead for the Minnesota Wild. They are right back at it Monday night at home, 1-game homestand against the New Jersey Devils, the upstart New Jersey Devils, who, as we all know, had the first overall pick at the draft in June, but are now currently tied for first place in the Metropolitan Division with 25 points. And they have a tiebreaker on Columbus and Pittsburgh right now just because they have played fewer games than either of those teams. Normally we'd say, oh yeah, the Devils, that's an easy one for Minnesota, but this year that is not the case anymore, as I'm just trying to understand how this team wins. And they don't score a lot, but they don't give up a lot of goals. So,
right.
Expect your Minnesota Wild Garden Variety, 2-1 game on Monday night.
Yeah, and I think, that team is as good as, Corey Schneider is. When he's on, he's a pretty good goalie. And I think he's just kind of playing well right now. And they're getting contributions from people you wouldn't necessarily expect. But I also don't really see that continuing that much. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Do you think that they're going to be around come playoff time? I don't.
I mean, they're about to get past that major checkpoint of being in a playoff spot on Thanksgiving, but
Sure, but
you kind of look at the standings and you see, Washington is, just a couple points behind them, and the Islanders are surging right now, only a point behind, and it looks like Carolina maybe starting to get on a roll. The Rangers are starting to win hockey games now, and so I mean they're going to have to kind of fight and claw their way to keep that spot with the teams that are kind of coming up behind them. And I honestly wouldn't be surprised if they slipped out of a playoff spot just because of the squad they have. We didn't expect anything special out of them, but I guess what they get this year is just kind of a bonus, and they can kind of keep building for the next few years.
yeah, no, I think this is playing with house money for them.
Yeah.
So I really don't see them.
Another playoff list year for Taylor Hall.
But hey,
Can never make the playoffs. Can't get a date with Selena Gomez on Twitter.
He is super talented at getting his team first overall picks, though.
That he is. He
Wild-
knows nothing but.
The Wild should trade for him for that reason alone.
Yes, please. Then on Wednesday, the Wild make their lone trip of the year to Buffalo to play old friends Pominville and Scandella.
Oh yeah, that's exciting.
Did you know Jason Pominville has like 13 points for Buffalo this year?
Yep.
You did?
Yeah.
I never see that on Twitter.com.
Yeah, imagine that. I mean, who would have guessed that he could contribute to a hockey team?
He doesn't have a point in the last 5 games, though.
That sounds more like him.
And, 7 out of the last 8 games, he does not have a point.
Ooh.
And that 1 point was a lone assist. So he's kind of taking a slump here since that hot start. But,
He'll be fine.
and Buffalo, just once again, just an absolute tire fire.
You know how many points Marcus Foligno and Tyler Ennis have combined?
11.
12.
Oh.
You know how much more those two put together?
I hate when that trade gets labeled a salary dump because the Wild only saved like 800,000.
No,
that's not a salary dump.
That was my next point. You know how much those two combined are making?
Yeah.
For 6.8. No, sorry, 7.6. 7.4. Sorry, my math is terrible. 7.4 million out of those two for 12 points.
I just I get it. Like we said last summer, the Wild had to make a trade, and Chuck Fletcher certainly made a very bold trade here. But let's not label it what it's not, and a salary dump is definitely not what this trade was. Let's be honest.
Well, I described it as a salary dump gone horribly wrong. I think that's what he was going for, and for whatever reason, we heard all sorts of stuff about how much he loved Marcus Foligno for some inexplicable reason. But yeah, it was just a salary dump gone horribly wrong, and you end up with a lot less than you gave up in the end, and like you said, no money saved almost whatsoever.
Yeah, just don't label that, please.
Yeah, well.
I know. And then obviously we have Thanksgiving on Thursday.
Yeah.
Best of luck to you on your Thanksgiving cooking on Thursday.
Yeah, I'm making a turkey and all sorts of sides for my girlfriend's family as they've come to visit my house, and luckily they're pretty cool. I don't have a lot of anxiety about like their end of things, but that's still fairly nerve-wracking.
Well, I just go somewhere and the food's already made, so
that's usually what I do. But
all I have to worry about is what I'm bringing to drink.
Well, yeah, but that's an important decision right there.
Yeah, it's crucial.
It is, really is.
And, then the Wild play their traditional Black Friday home game.
Is it a
3 o'clock
matinee?
start.
Yeah. Cool.
So if you do have tickets for that, please be aware it is a 3 o'clock p.m. start for the Wild, and they get their first meeting of the season with the Colorado Avalanche. And then they quickly follow it up Saturday night with a trip to St. Louis for their first meeting with the Blues this year. The Central Division leading St. Louis Blues.
The Fight-Neos.
Be great if the Wild beat St. Louis on Saturday, and then that started a swoon for them.
I don't know. Did a Yo team ever swoon before January though? Was there was a December swoon once?
There
wasn't
was, there? Yeah, there was like
late
the
first one
December, early January swoon.
Yeah. So
I want to say it was 2013, 14.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Because that's when they turned to Darcy Kemper, and he took them essentially to the playoffs.
Darcy Kemper. He of the top 10 in the NHL in save percentage, Darcy Kemper.
I saw him play at Staples Center yesterday. He was the starting goalie.
Yeah, how'd that go?
He had a shutout.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, he basically kept the Panthers off the board in the first period. They completely dominated. I think LA only had like 2 shots the first period, and he made some pretty spectacular saves in the first period. And once the Kings finally got going in the second and third period, like, it was all over because Florida's an absolute tire fire.
Right.
If those goals go in the first period, that game probably goes a little differently. But Kings won 4-0, and he was rightfully named the first star of the game.
Did you pick up a jersey of his?
No.
No? Okay.
The Kings gift shop did not carry his jersey.
No.
They did carry some retro Kings Gretzky jerseys.
Sure.
With the famed Chevron logo.
Right.
They also did carry the famed Burger King Gretzky jersey.
Nice.
For a cool $300.
Oh, Jesus.
You can own one.
Yeah, no thanks.
But I did get a good show yesterday. There were 5 Burger King jerseys in the stands at Staples Center, all of which were authentic. There was 3 Gretzkys, a McSorley.
Oh, wow.
And I want to say LaCroix. I can't think of his first name. But
Pierre?
I don't think Pierre played with them. I got to look up 96 Kings.
There wasn't a Robitaille in the bunch?
No, amazingly. Maybe there wasn't a LaCroix in there. I don't know. Huh. It was... But anyway, so I guess that was a custom one. But all were authentic, which was great. I did have to explain why those jerseys were great. And then we got into the 90s jersey discussion.
Gotcha.
For which I prefaced with, well, that's a long story.
Yeah, I explained to my girlfriend last night when you sent me the text about the Burger King jersey, and then showed her how much they cost. And she was much less willing to buy me one at that point.
Yeah. As I texted you, I did get the last Burger King logo shot glass on the shelf at the Staples Center gift shop,
which is pretty outstanding.
Yes, I was otherwise displeased with that shelf. For those unaware, to no surprise, I collect shot glasses whenever I travel, so I've been picking some up this weekend, and the LA Kings had a very uninspiring collection of shot glasses, but I managed to pick out the last Burger King logo shot glass on the shelf, and
yeah,
I was very pleased.
Well, that's good.
All right, on to the Bruce Boudreau quote of the week.
Hi, this is Bruce Boudreau. I don't see how in Toronto that they're calling it, unless it's a guy they just pulled in off the street that hasn't seen hockey before. If I were the fans, I'd be booing even more, because they pay good money for this.
If you want it, don't just think you want it. Go out and f***ing want it.
The quote of the week I have for this week came after Thursday night's win over Nashville. Boudreau kind of had a little bit of a mixture of seriousness and then a little joking in his quote, which the Minnesota Wild Twitter account was able to tweet out, but he said, "You can't be satisfied playing 30 minutes a game. They can't all be Picassos either. It shows character that they can come back." So the Picasso line obviously was the little joke, but
Maybe he just really enjoys the art of Pablo Picasso.
yes, was he the one that cut off his ear?
No, that was Van Gogh.
Okay,
Picasso was more
I
recent.
had-
Picasso was, I think, early 19th century, or I don't think he died until probably 40 years ago. He was very modern.
You and Jamie said Van Gogh at the same time, so thank you to both of you for telling me it was Van Gogh.
Kind of art classes did you take at that private school, Giles?
I didn't pay attention. It was art class. As long as I gave an effort, take notes, Wild. I did all right.
Yeah, gotcha.
So, kind of a light week for quotes from the Wild head coach, which
No, I mean it's better
disappointing,
than
but
it's better than last year when they had the famous quote that we used frequently, where they showed resiliency by coming back again. I think it was against the Jets last year, and ended up losing. And I think it was Dan Myers that asked him about resiliency after the game, and he got pissed and basically walked off. It's like, resiliency, make it sound like we're good. I'm done, and just leaves. So at least obviously they won this game, which probably kind of cures all ills as far as that's concerned. But
for those who don't listen all the way through the end of the show, that is literally the last thing you hear before the podcast ends.
Right.
That line from Boudreaux. So.
Right.
But no, that is our quote of the week, and on to our weekly wager.
What's your bet, sir?
Ah, yes, the bet.
Okay, what the hell? It makes very little sense to bet when you cannot win.
The weekly wager for this week.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess in recap of last week's weekly wager, we wagered on if Ovechkin was going to score against the Wild Saturday night, as he had 14 goals in 12 games entering Saturday night's game. And Washington scored 3 goals from Oshie, Orlov, and Kuznetsov. None from Ovechkin. So Ben was the winner of last week's bet, giving him now a 4-3 advantage in the weekly wager. So the punishment for me this week is I have to read a written statement from Ben, which is a little easier than last week's punishment.
That'd be the sound of Giles getting the written statement via text.
Can I just edit the audio in on this?
No, you read it and then
I have
edit the
to
audio
leave
in.
it unedited.
Yeah.
Okay. The statement as prepared goes: You're smart. I was wrong. You were right. You're the best. I'm the worst. You're very good looking. I'm not very attractive.
All right, as long as you're willing to admit that now.
If you pick up on where that's from, good on you.
Yes, it's a good quote.
So now the weekly wager for this week. I don't know if Ben has any ideas or.
Would you like to bet on my level of meltdown from the Thanksgiving that I'm about to have with my girlfriend's family? And if it works better, you can have Roz be the judge of this.
Yeah, we need a neutral.
She's
neutral
impartial.
judge here.
In fact, she's probably on your side more than anything.
But so I guess what are my options in terms of your level of meltdown? I mean, should we go by the DEFCON level?
I think like even if I get pissed enough to like I don't know, sigh heavily, I think she's going to feel like that's a meltdown. So, like I said, I think you're really, if you take that end of it, I think you're really doing well for yourself. And I'm just going to have to try my damnedest to control myself, which, if anyone who knows me, isn't very easy.
So, I think this is how we're going to kind of label it, and I'll make sure she has the notes on the DEF CON system to give an accurate one. But so there's 5 levels of DEF CON. So it goes from 5 to 1 in terms of lowest to nuclear meltdown.
Right.
So, DEF CON 5 would be all is well. DEF CON 4 is, trying to think.
Cautious?
DEF CON 4 would be, you would just kind of sigh a couple of times, but, you still do all right. DEF CON 3, you swear.
Oh, geez. Well,
DEF CON 3 would be, you swear like once.
Okay. Because of said situation, not just in regular day talk, yeah.
DEF CON 2 would be you going ballistic because you burned something. And then DEF CON 1, you just throw everything to the floor in disgust and walk out.
I was going to say DEF CON 1 would probably be turkey ends up in my backyard.
DEF CON 1 would be scene from Friends where you get locked out of the house and then you come back and turkey's on fire and the potatoes are just one solid piece in the bowl.
Right.
All 3 different kinds of potatoes are ruined, so you end up having to eat grilled cheese and Funyuns.
Yeah, well, yeah, that would be, yeah, that's like DEF CON 0. That's not good.
I'm gonna go with DEF CON 3.
Okay, so anything above, so the over under would be DEF CON 3.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair.
So I'm gonna go with that. That seems like a safe bet for somebody who's trying to cook Thanksgiving dinner.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that would probably be the over-under I'll put myself at, is probably a pretty hearty F-bomb once, and, that's probably all I'll need.
What am I wagering?
Good question. So we've done Twitter aving a number of times, and I feel like that's just escalating to the point where you were Paul Allen for 5 days. I don't know that we want to keep going down that road.
I'm trying to think, what is there a Thanksgiving food you don't like?
Yeah, I don't like whole cranberries, like the non-homogeneous cranberries.
I was just about to say, I don't like the cranberries at all.
I like the can-shaped, squeeged out of the can, all one jelly mold cranberries, but I don't like when there's roughage and branches in my cranberry sauce and uber tart little cranberry bombs everywhere.
So the punishment is somebody has to eat cranberry.
Okay. Well, I will. My girlfriend she enjoys the terrible kind of cranberries, so I will save a little portion of that and bring it to the podcast on Sunday.
There you go.
And to the Victor Goes and Spoils.
That seems like a good bet.
Yeah, it's pretty solid.
So there you go. That's our weekly wager for this week. Check back with us next week or on Thursday. You may be able to find our podcast hinting at on Twitter who was the victor of the bet. But, I didn't get to that update yet because I forgot what the bet was. So should be good. But yeah, that was the wager.
Yeah.
And on to jerseys.
Here to start the third period. What team is this? It's not Team USA. Well, yes, it is. They've got on new uniforms. They're wearing the logo of the Duck. I've never seen this before.
The jersey of the week, New Jersey Devils, is the Wild host New Jersey on Monday night. And for those new, what we do in this segment is we try to imagine what a third jersey for this team will look like next year if they should go that route with Adidas. Because obviously nobody has a third jersey this year that's not playing in an outdoor game.
Right.
And if you look at the 45-year history of the New Jersey Devils, you find almost fewer jerseys than that of the Montreal Canadiens during that time frame.
You're actually accurate on that. Yeah, that's you wouldn't think that anyone would be as staunch, but they were. But also, I think it's worth mentioning that Lou Lamoriello, who was very notably curmudgeonly when it comes to jersey changes, is now with the Maple Leafs organization.
Yeah, I was just about to say, when you have Lou Lamoriello running your organization for, quarter of a century,
right.
Yeah, you're not going to make a lot of changes.
Right. Right. So I don't know about you. What's the feeling you get? Do you think they'll have a third jersey? I don't know, maybe not next year, but I mean, I gotta think they have one at some point, right? It's not like they're so tradition laden that they can't have one like the Canadians.
You would think so, because it wasn't like their changes to the uniforms this year were that much of a difference. But I gotta think they go with something. I would like to see them try an all or a primarily black jersey with red trim.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
And see how that goes. There's got to be a concept on aesthetics.
Yeah,
we haven't mentioned them in a while. Good Lord.
You gun shy?
Yeah, that's probably it. But no, there's probably got to. I'm looking it up right now. There's got to be a concept here for
an all black
New Jersey on aesthetics of like an all black.
Yeah, I would think they could probably make it look pretty good. I mean, I think their jerseys are a solid look. I'm not gonna throw them up in the upper echelon of jerseys or anything. But I think they could pull off a black jersey pretty well. I think that's not something that's just like the Wolf-worthy late 90s, let's make a black jersey for the sake of making a black jersey kind of thing. I think the Devils, it totally fits.
There is a black jersey, the third concept in for New Jersey. I'm not really big on it, but I mean, it just kind of gives you an idea of what it would look like. And I kind of like the concept of primarily black, but I probably wouldn't go as far as this concept where it has a white and red stripe on the shoulders.
Yeah.
And then I have white, half sleeves and with red trim. So I don't know. I guess I would definitely hope they try a black jersey, as it just seems like you're missing out on not at least trying to have one.
Yeah.
And definitely with, Lou Lamoriello gone in Toronto, you would certainly like to think that they would be, very open to that. And
think of all the Nico Hersher jerseys they could sell.
Maybe Taylor Hall will get a day with Selena Gomez if they have a black jersey.
Yeah. Do you think they'll ever have any different logo? I mean, if they were to go with a third jersey, you think they would, or is that too much?
I don't think they need to change. I think that's...
No, I don't think they need to either. I like their logo's fine, but I just am wondering if maybe they could come up with something different, for a third jersey, perhaps.
I don't know. I feel like, in the kind of the sensitive age we live in, if you try anything more with Devils, you're gonna piss somebody off. So I would just stick with what you have, just for the sake of Pitchfork Nation not standing on your doorstep. But
sure, that's understandable.
Oh, I was just reminded that Selena Gomez is with Justin Bieber. In case you didn't know that.
That's like a Ross and Rachel thing, isn't it? Isn't that pretty back and forth and not to be taken super seriously until the last episode?
I gotta be honest. I have no idea. I don't pay attention to the tabloids, but
I don't either. I just know. I got the.
I hope it is just so your friend's reference is very valid here.
Well, I don't know much about it either, but I'm obviously with the whole Taylor Hall jersey saga. We were us hockey types were drug into the land of Justin and Selena because she was wearing a hockey jersey. So
Yes. Also, speaking of friends, I got to sit on the Central Perk couch yesterday.
Oh yeah, I saw that. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it was the actual set. I don't know if that was the actual couch we were sitting on because everybody who takes the tour of the studio gets to do that. So pretty much everyone who's going through there is going to sit on the couch and take a picture. So that's a lot of wear on the couch. So I gotta imagine the real actual couch is stored away. But yeah, no, the rest of the set was authentic. It was cool.
Wonder what they did with the real couch.
I didn't cry.
He didn't?
No.
No? Okay.
The couch probably got stored away with the set of Monica's apartment because they did tell us that they stored that set away in the archives.
Yeah.
At in one of the lots there, but because they're like, oh, in case they ever needed it, reunion.
They're gonna do a tour where they're just gonna go to they'll one of those expose tours or when the Smithsonian went on tour and stuff like that. They'll do a Friends tour just for folks like yourself.
And they will get a lot of money out of me.
Yeah.
So, hope that's the Jersey segment for this week. It was actually kind of nice to talk about a team that actually has a chance to do something new and creative with a third jersey next year.
Yeah.
I feel like the last couple of weeks we've just been talking about a team that we already know the answer to.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I like variety.
Yeah, variety's good.
All right. On to the mailbag.
Woo!
I've been trying to make a transition for the mailbag, but I haven't found it yet. And I was hoping to make one of Cliff Clavin talking about the Postal Service and Cheers, but
that would be outstanding.
It feels like he talks about everything else except the Postal Service, except for a random episode. So it's clips are so few and far between. But
sure.
I'll keep digging. Maybe Dan has an idea for me. He's watching Cheers right now.
Cheers is just outstanding. I can't say enough good things about Cheers.
Yeah, it was a very good show.
Yeah.
Gave me my role model, Norm Peterson.
Right.
Anyway, so no, we do have a mailbag this week. We did get to 30 iTunes reviews. We got a 31st iTunes review. So thank you to those two who did leave us a couple ratings. But we do have a mailbag, and I believe that was Erin Kelly, loyal listener of the show, who gave us our 30th review. So shout out to her.
Yes.
For getting the mailbag back up and running. 1 week protest. But, so yeah, we did open up the mailbag, and I'll save our the question that's probably gonna get the most response out of us for last.
Right.
But we did get a couple from our friend Serious Mashup, who you did an interview with on Zone Coverage this week.
Yeah, I interviewed him on what it's like, because obviously most of us that follow the Wild are Minnesota, at least born and bred, probably live in Minnesota or nearby. He, however, is living in Austria, so it's kind of an interesting look into the NHL fans on the other side of the pond.
Right. When we first found him, this was right around the time Vanek signed, and he informed us quickly that he was not a fan of him. So, first question from him: how can Boudreau spark Tyler Ennis?
Cattle prod.
Just take his best friend Jared Spurgeon away from him.
I don't know what even to think anymore of Tyler Ennis. Not that I had a great grasp on it to begin with. it just doesn't seem like he's that good. Like he's not that talented, and he's not, obviously he doesn't have a whole lot of size either. So I can't figure out for the life of me how he got $4.6 million a year out of Buffalo.
So last season in 51 games, Tyler Ennis scored 13 points.
Right.
And it feels like he is on a very similar pace to that. This year, he's only at 5 points in 19 games. And for those counting at home, he has not registered a point in 15 out of the last 16 games.
Jesus
The
Christ.
only game where he registered a point was the win over Montreal at home, where he scored a goal. It kind of looked like maybe there would be a promising start for him there, as he had 4 points in the first 4 games of the year. Kind of looked like, hey, maybe he'll actually do all right, but it has been all downhill ever since. And
Right.
I mean, he has been shuffled up and down the lineup trying to get started. Like I'm guessing Boudreau is kind of running out of ideas on how to, get him going. And I'm guessing maybe in the next couple weeks, maybe with the return of Charlie Coyle, Boudreau might be more apt to pull that last card out of the deck, which is, scratch him for a game just to send him a message.
Yeah, I just I don't know. I don't understand what he needs to be successful. I'd heard that he wanted out of Buffalo. Kind of a hearsay thing, but I don't know. I don't know what his like he was supposed to do any better, like that was going to help his career drastically or something like that. I just don't. I don't know. It goes back to that trade and how nonsensical it kind of was for the Wild. Sure, he wanted out of Buffalo. That's super. Sure, the Wild wanted to, as we said, dump Pominville's salary, which is silly because he only made $1 million more than Ennis. But it still doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
From Aaron Kelly, lots of theories about how many games Dubnyk should play to not overwork him, but how many games should Stalock play to stay sharp as a backup? That's a good goalie question.
Yeah, and so when we've talked about Dubnyk, trying to keep him under the 60 starts threshold. And 60 starts seems to be right about where you want your starting goaltender. And I think, there's varying degrees of how much you think that those starts really wear Dubnyk down. But to keep Stalock, sharp, I gotta assume you'd want him playing as much as possible. So if it depends on what the question is, how many starts do you want Dubnyk to get, and how many starts do you want Stalock to get? Well, I mean, ideally you'd want them starting both as much as possible to stay sharp, because I think that's the challenge of being a backup goalie, is staying sharp, even though you're only playing probably once every other week. But I don't know. I think if you find that good, 60 games to 20 games balance, I think that's enough. I mean, I think that way, your backup's playing not quite once a week, but almost once a week. And your backup is, getting rested at least once a week or once every, let's say, 9 to 10 days. I think that's probably about right. I think that formula has worked, for a lot of NHL teams who can actually rely on their backup goaltender, which the Wild seem to be able to do this season. So,
yeah, I would say that the kind of the 25-30 game mark that we kind of noted, seemingly every year that Dubnyk should get off,
yeah,
is probably the fairest amount just for the backup, just to keep him sharp. And I'd argue that that's probably why Darcy Kemper never really ever got anything going, was because he wasn't getting a look. And it also never helped that the Wild were always trying to pull their nuts out of the fire, so they had to keep going with Dubnyk through that whole time. And when you're a backup goalie and you're getting a rare start, and you're kind of having head problems like Kemper did here, where you let in a bad goal and then it turns into a couple bad goals, then yeah, you're not ever going to get, looked at again, and that just really probably factored in a little bit. But
yeah. So right now, Dubnyk has 15 starts, Stalock has 5. Or sorry, Dubnyk has 15 starts, Stalock has 4. Stalock should have 5, with the exception of the birth of his child. So I think that is probably the right ratio. That's about 75%. That would end you up at about that 60 game mark, 60-20 split that you want. So I think they're on track with it right now. I mean, you can't really help or control Stalock having a kid and missing a game that he was supposed to start. He was scheduled to start. But I think they found a good balance with it. And Stalock right now, he's got a .927 save percentage. He's been pretty much thrown to the wolves in every game. As we saw, last night he faced 42 shots. So I think they're doing well with that right now. And I think as long as Stalock can stay sharp, playing every fourth game or thereabouts, I think there's no, hopefully Bruce sticks with that. And that way he's not leaning on Dubnyk extra heavily in January, February, and March like he's had to in recent seasons.
Well, I'd argue that he'd have probably gotten a starter there too with Dubnyk being on a shutout streak.
Yeah.
But because he kept,
well, he was supposed to start
shutting everyone out.
Yeah, he was supposed to start in Toronto for sure.
Right.
And then I think, had Dubnyk not been on a shutout streak, he probably would have started maybe that Saturday in Philly.
Yeah.
Or at least Tuesday against Philly.
Another one from, we'll save this one for towards the end too. But, from Alec, do you see the Wild buying or selling at the deadline? I mean, obviously right now, if the trade deadline was, coming up, I'd say, the Wild would probably look to buy, but
yeah,
there's also a log jam in the standings, so not many teams would be looking to sell.
Right, and so I look at this where almost no matter where the Wild are, what do they have to sell? You know what I mean? Like, Tyler Ennis has 2 years left on his contract. Is anybody going to give them anything for him? No.
No.
And do you want to deal anyone else? You're not dealing Koivu. You could maybe make an argument for dealing Stahl if the team is really bad, but he's got a year left at a really good deal. And I got to think, even if you have a bad season this year, even when the trade deadline rolls around, you probably feel decent enough about your team the following season to where you want to keep him. And from there, it's, who do you deal? Who is that kind of rental player that you can get assets back in return for on this team that you actually want to deal? Stahl would be at the top of the list. Other than that, you could maybe deal Zucker or Dumba, but because they're on the last year of their deals, but that's assuming you don't want to keep them, which I assume that even though the cap situation is tight, the Wild want to keep them.
All right.
So unless Chuck Fletcher's already made up his mind that he cannot re-sign one of those guys, which I doubt. Like I said, I think he has every intent of wanting to keep him, and I think they can, quite honestly, even with the cap crunch the way it is. Because Koivu's deal, goes down a little bit, and I think they'll probably buy out Tyler Ennis this summer. I just don't see them having anything to deal, unless Daniel Winnick suddenly goes on an ungodly tear or something.
I'd argue that Jason Zucker is probably their most valuable asset.
Sure, but do they want to deal him?
Right. Does he want to go somewhere else?
Right.
From what I understand, he is kind of the guy who would love to kind of stay on for the long haul.
Yeah.
But
if he didn't make a move to return home to Vegas this past summer, then not to say that he can only stay here or go to Vegas, but if he didn't make a push to be part of the trade this summer to Vegas, then I don't know. He might as well stay here at that point.
All right. From Aaron Kelly, pumpkin or pecan pie?
That's a slam dunk. That's pumpkin pie every time.
Yeah, 10 out of 10. Pumpkin.
Yeah, and not even anything really against pecan pie. I just I don't know. I'm not huge on it, and I am very much huge on pumpkin pie. Pumpkin pie is fantastic.
Yep. With some Cool Whip
Cool
on
Whip.
top.
Cool Whip. Yes.
Yeah. All right. Then our final question from Jamie Dolezal. What is an example of a jersey that has aged horribly?
That's an excellent question.
I hope I got that name right. She asks again, I'll ask her.
You know, I think a lot of stuff that came out in the 90s probably didn't age very well, but luckily for us, unluckily and luckily for us, it didn't stick around for very long. A la the Gorton's Fisherman, I don't think that would have aged well. even though we love it for the nostalgia now. I don't know. I feel like the Senators look was kind of cool at the time. The logo with before they had a very old looking logo, and now then they updated it to with the sneering Marvin the Martian guy or Gladiator or whatever the hell he is. I don't think he's a senator. I don't think senators are supposed to wear hats like that. Unless there's some kind of weird tradition in Canada that I don't know about. But I think that one hasn't aged particularly well. I mean, certainly locally here, we think of the Wild Red jerseys not aged very well. But I also think that was helped along by the Reebok Edge. The Reebok Edge system made it a little bit worse. And that really kind of accelerated its bad aging.
That was going to be my answer, was the Wild Red jerseys as a prime example, and you kind of hit it right on the nail that, when it first came out, it was, universally loved, and then the Reebok Edge switch kind of really did it no favors, and as time went on, everybody seemed to kind of despise it more, and it just got to the point where we had waited for the sweet release of death on these jerseys, and
we finally got them.
We finally did get it.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think of another one here right off the top of my head, but I don't know. I'm just trying to think of jerseys that I don't like and see .
Well, the thing is with the jerseys that we don't like, the Canucks, the Ducks,
right? They're all just fueled by other factors.
Well, but they were bad from day one too.
Right.
I don't think there's a whole lot of jerseys where it was that was cool when it came out, and now I'm just kind of tired of looking at it.
You know what? There's another one here that kind of falls directly into this, and I'm going to go with the Calgary Flames home jerseys right now.
Sure.
When they first came out, they were alternates, and this was right around the same time the Wild Red jerseys were released. And it kind of had a cleaner look, and it was the primary jersey that the Flames used in their Stanley Cup final trip back in 2004.
Yeah.
So it really became loved for me, and definitely over the Flaming Horse. But as time has gone on, and with the switch to Reebok Edge, the jerseys just kind of gotten worse. And once the Flames used their retro 80s red jersey, it really just kind of shined a light on the fact that these jerseys aren't really that good, and they've kind of gotten worse as time has gone on. And I'm also just kind of begging for the sweet release of death with these jerseys, and hopefully Calgary can bring back a cleaner look one day.
Yeah, I still don't understand the Alberta flag on the shoulder. That's great and all that you really like your province's flag, and maybe they're just like the Maryland of Canada, where they're just universally obsessed with their flag up there. But it doesn't need to be there, and it just looks so out of place being a giant blue rectangle on the Flames uniform.
I am surprised that the Wild haven't thought of that yet.
The Minnesota flag on?
Either that or putting the state of hockey on the jerseys permanently.
Oh yeah, I don't doubt that could happen.
Just watch, that'll come next year in a third jersey.
That would be, if we talked about the Wild third jerseys already, but the M logo is almost guaranteed to be on the third jersey, I would think. As the primary logo.
All right.
And then the outline of the state of Minnesota as a shoulder patch, I could absolutely see that. with
Well,
SOH.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Who knows?
that's the mailbag for this week. Thank you to everyone who sent in questions. Follow our podcast Twitter account at GATG Wild Podcast if you want to hit up a mailbag for the next time we open it, or you can also send us an email, gilesandthegoalie@gmail.com. Pretty easy.
True.
But yeah, that can probably wrap it up for us. Any final thoughts?
No, I'm looking forward. I'm going to the game tomorrow. Looking forward to that. And, looking forward to the holiday week. I always look forward to Thanksgiving. Any holiday that's 100% revolves around
Food related.
eating. Yeah, I'm all for that.
I do love Thanksgiving. I love the annual. I save up for the Thanksgiving. Like the night before, I always cut off eating, and then I don't eat again until
Does that work for you,
Thanksgiving
though?
dinner.
Doesn't that shrink your stomach up? And
Yeah, I still eat a lot. Don't worry.
well, I don't doubt that. And I ate until I hurt last year, but
I could probably eat more, but who knows? Final thought. I don't know. I'm excited to check out the Honda Center tonight.
yeah.
I don't know. They're having a Hall of Fame night for a couple of guys I've never heard of before. So we'll see what they do, and
Very big night for Giles.
yeah, should be fun. I bought nice tickets for this game. I bought club level seats.
Oh wow.
So we get waited on during the game. So I'm excited for that.
Are you going to remember any of the game?
Not having to get up for beer it's a big it's a big step. But yeah, I'll try to remember.
Sure.
I'm also excited to get out and try In-N-Out Burger this afternoon.
Ah, yes, it's very good. From what so I was not impressed with their fries. Their fries are pretty run of the mill. But what I've heard is, and I'm sure a lot of people have heard of this, order them animal style. And it's like a cheese and Thousand Island and fried onions, and I heard it's very good. I heard the fries animal style are very good. I don't think the burger needs it. I've heard of people ordering their burger animal style, but the burger is very good. The fries are very run of the mill, but I've heard go with animal style. So give that a run if you dare.
All right.
Full review next week.
I'll give that, full review of everything next week. That'll wrap it up for us. You can find Ben and I on Twitter at Ben Remington, at Giles Farrell. Find the podcast Twitters I mentioned before at GATG Wild Podcast. You can find our show on Facebook, Instagram at GATG Wild Podcast. You can find our show on a smattering of platforms: Libsyn, iTunes, YouTube, Stitcher, SoundCloud. I forgot something in there, but pretty much we have it. Check out one of our social media sites for the full rundown of lists. If you do listen to us via iTunes, give us an iTunes rating. We are an otherwise fine podcast. And then you can find Ben and I writing at zonecoverage.com/wild. Also check out zonecoverage.com for your full array of Minnesota sports. And you can find our football guys lambasting Kai Forbath as he just missed his second field goal of the afternoon. But yeah, that will wrap it up for Ben and I this week, and we will talk to you again next week.
Later.
That's not resiliency. You're making it sound like we're good. That's all. I'm done.